Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode two of Paula and I talking all things change. So, if you caught during episode one, sorry, we were talking about our philosophy on change, what change means, that it's a human-centered transformation that happens, and it's not just about process. Today, we're going to be talking about the experience, the human experience of transformation. So, I'm Liz. I am the founder of The Good Space. I support organizations to build inclusive cultures and develop leaders so more people can really thrive at work. I also coach adults with ADHD to help better understand their brains and create a more fulfilling, sustainable way of working and living. And Paula, would you like to introduce yourself?
You. I'm Paula Carter. I'm the director and founder of Initio Success. What I do is go into or help organisations and teams to navigate, to lead change effectively, but along the way, learn of the experience so that they can inform and they can build sustainable change moving forward.
Wonderful. So from your experience, Paula,
Mm.
what do people fear most, do you think, during change? And how can leaders respond with empathy rather than pressure?
Yeah, this happens a lot, and it has done. I've
Mm,
seen this through experience. I think people fear that loss. It's a mourning, it's a grieving
yeah.
process. And some people react differently depending on I guess, really their involvement in the journey of change. Some
Mm,
people can literally accept the change immediately, but the moment the change occurs, they then can return back to actually being in denial and not accepting the change.
mm,
And they'll also sometimes there's a vulnerability, there's a less loss, can't remember, loss of identity, a loss of stability, and a
yeah.
loss of control. And I think
Mm,
leaders can respond with empathy by identifying those areas, those fears openly, and creating a safe space for open and honest conversations. And ultimately reassuring people that uncertainty is normal. And I think
mm,
empathy isn't soft, it's strategic. And
mm.
that's a really, really important aspect to take. And when people feel understood, they're more willing to move with you rather than against you. And what I've also, I think, is important to bring across is not everything has to be changed.
Yes.
It's identifying what is needing to be changed and what can actually, how that can be adopted with
Mm,
what is working today and taking that
mm,
forward. And that's a really important element. And sometimes people think that everything's got to change when it
mm.
doesn't need to. So yeah, I think that's something to take there.
I think that's an excellent point. If you don't mind, if the one thing I'd add to that as well is
Mm,
often the leader delivering the change has maybe been sitting with that change program for months, maybe even a year or so, planning it
yeah,
out, working it out. So
yeah.
for them, they've already processed it and they're moving on to action or if you're not careful, can be quite impatient and wanting to move quite
Yes.
quickly because they've been sat with it for so long. And I think from experience delivering programs and observing people when delivering internal communication, you need to slow it down. So understand that this is the first time that your audience will have heard about the change when you
Yeah.
communicate, even though you've been working through it maybe for a couple of weeks, couple of months, maybe even a year. Just
Mm.
just really understand where your audience is, where your audience is, what their motivation is, and where they are coming to that conversation, I think can be really helpful.
I think that's a really good point, and also not really having an appreciation of what change they're undergoing already.
Yes.
Well, I suppose it's an ultimately their workloads may be really heavy,
Yeah.
and in their mind, straight away there's a resistance. Now, whether they vocalize that or they don't, but
Mm,
ultimately they're then thinking, well, how can I adopt this change when I've already got all this work to do, or all this change that I'm already undergoing? So I think what's
mm,
really, really important is look at the landscape first when you're leading change. You know,
mm,
it's not just the impact of how it's going to be or potential impact it's going to be on the people, but have an appreciation of what their current workloads are and what change are they all currently undergoing as well. Because
Yeah.
straight away there will be a resistance there, and whether it's intentional or not.
I love that consideration. And so, what would you say to organisations that maybe have that nuance or
Mm,
are going through that, which I'm guessing will be typical for most organisations, where
mm.
maybe employees already feel stretched, they already feel maxed out. How do you help them navigate change?
Yeah, so one of the experiences that I had in an organisation, that everybody focused extremely well on all their particular areas of change that they were undertaking and supporting the contracts that they were working on. But there wasn't an appreciation of change that was going to come across and impact all of them, whether it's a legislational
Mm,
change, process change that would impact all. And I think what there needs to be is a collaboration or a collective approach of, right, okay, let's just do an assessment of all the priorities that we've got at the moment with the work that we've got. And
yeah.
also what's important is being able to demonstrate why, to justify
Mm,
the change, because people are more willing to engage and to work with you if they understand the justification for that change. And I think that's a
mm.
really, really important part and aspect of that. So, from your perspective, Liz, is how can individuals protect their energy during transformation? Because as we've just discussed, workloads, different
Mm.
priorities, but sometimes they have to manage that workload as well. So, how would you suggest that they need to protect themselves and their energy during that?
Ah, really good question. I think first of all, just understanding and recognizing that people will be coming to the transformation
Mm,
very differently. Everyone will be coming to it differently. Some people may already feel very stretched and maybe at points of burnout, maybe they're masking, or maybe current ways of working mean that they feel overstretched already.
mm,
So recognizing that there is no one size fits all, and everyone's going to be approaching this from a different standing point.
mm,
Um, and periods of change, they can intensify masking. Some people might look like they're accepting, but underneath it all, may feel too afraid to actually vocalize their feeling, and therefore the change is kind of unresolved for them. So they're trying to process that cognitively as well as doing everything else. And I would say with change as well, particularly when we are exploring energy mapping and energy management, is if the change involves learning or embracing a new system or a new way of working, that can also increase cognitive load and for some people feel incredibly overwhelming. So I think again, like you were saying, communicating what is staying the same to help people understand that landscape. And if there is a big change, trying to break it down into really small micro pieces to help people process and understand. So we're trying to limit them getting or trying to prevent them from getting to that state of overwhelm, which can happen. Managers again playing a key role there, having regular conversations, regular one-to-one conversations, which don't always happen.
mm,
Regular one-to-one conversations as well as conversations with groups of people. And then when it comes to energy management, and particularly when we look at resilience, so resilience is really the definition of resilience is your ability to bounce back. But really, resilience is a skill. So if you're not taking care of yourself, so you're not taking care of your well-being, your resilience and your ability to bounce back is going to be impacted. So really, when you're going through a change program, making sure people have the opportunity for regular breaks to help process, and those breaks need to be outside of the office, so fresh air.
mm,
Movement is key to help people with ADHD with their regulation. And movement doesn't have to be a big thing. Having the opportunity to just move at your desk or when you're seated can be a big thing. So, movement, hydration, again, sometimes things like that when someone's at risk of burnout or they're in that fight or flight kind of frame of mind or they're in that zone, it can be really difficult to do the things that you know will help your well-being. So having a manager check in on someone's well-being, I think is really helpful. Like I said, regular breaks, giving people the opportunity to share. Some people will be verbal processors. Some people will need lots of time to understand the change before they feel comfortable asking a question. So having the opportunity for that. And I would also say as well, if managers have that trusted relationship, maybe spending some time helping that employee identify what gives them energy. So when we're going through periods of change or when we're having to do something difficult, it's really important that we can balance those energy drains with lots of things that give us energy. So I've talked about some things well-being wise, but some things will be really personal. So I know of people that like to be really creative, and that's an opportunity
Mm.
for them to process and get energy in. So making sure that there's that nice balance and continuous conversation, I would say. Is there anything you'd add, Paula, based on your
No,
experience?
I was just, I do totally agree, but I think sometimes from my experience as well, some people don't know why they feel the way they do.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
another thing I think, and what I've done when I've facilitated workshops around change is making other people aware that, you know, if we can together look out for each other and keep checking on
Mm,
each other, because we say about, you know, the person that's leading the change or the manager, but I think with each other, it's so empowering when
yeah,
you can support your colleagues as well through this, um, because some change can be a trigger as
yeah,
well, and maybe they don't know and they don't understand why that trigger is occurring. And I think fundamentally, what we to bring this kind of back to the business element of it, it's difficult as well sometimes to balance the people's needs and the staff's needs as well as getting the change done.
yeah, yeah.
Because so it, you know, there could be financial implications. There's got to be able to demonstrate ROI with this.
Mm,
So I think the early investment in an organisation to understand how they can equip their people to deliver change, whether that's a current change or a future change, that is an investment in the organisation and in with the people, and it also ultimately prepares them for the change that, as I say, is either imminent or is going to be planned, or may not even be aware. They may not be aware of any change yet. But equipping that is incredibly important for any organisation and any business.
that's a really good point. I think also, I just thought as well of any existing communities that you might have at your workplace as well. So tapping into
Mm.
those which could be safe spaces for communication and as a temperature check as well on how people are doing. So for instance, I've worked with an organisation that had a community for neurodivergent employees, and it was called their
Mm.
Neuro Cafe, and they met on a monthly basis to talk about and anything kind of work-wise, life-wise. If you have communities like that already, so trusted groups of people
Mm.
that communicate about lots of different things, they are already trusted spaces. So using them as well when it comes to change, because safety in numbers sometimes, particularly if you're feeling vulnerable about communicating something.
No, I think it's good, and I think what can then be done is the confidence taken away by that. I guess gathering that knowledge and experience from those groups can then impart onto the teams and the colleagues that you're working with. I think it's
Absolutely.
important, you know, shared experiences. But I think to conclude that part of it is my kind of advice and takeaway from that is human experience of transformation is rarely about the mechanics of change.
Yeah.
It's more about the change that makes people how they are feeling with it. The most
Mm.
fear comes with the possibility of losing something, or feeling incompetent or a loss of identity. But I think when colleagues, we're going to say this, leaders and colleagues acknowledge these fears with empathy rather than a pressure, they create the psychological space that people need to move
Yeah.
forward. And I'd also say that people-centered change isn't a slogan, it's a
Mm.
discipline. And it means recognizing that resilience looks different for everyone
Yeah.
and that energy costs are often hidden. And the
Mm.
individuals need clarity, pacing, and permission to adapt in their own way. And I think
Absolutely.
once we do that and listen to that, I think at its best, transformation honours the people who make it possible. ensuring that they feel respected and informed, and I guess really part of the journey as well.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Paula. We
Thank
hope that this has
you.
been useful for those of you that are listening and watching. And if you would like to find out more about the brilliant work that Paula does or the work that I do, then please just reach out to us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
listening.